The ultimate news portal for the Philadelphia Phillies is on the air, bringing you everything about Philly's most traditional franchise.
Stay tuned for behind-the-scenes trade rumors and analysis of the big plays because our bulletin starts right now.
They said it was a crisis. They said the clubhouse was cracking. They said Bryce Harper had just declared war on his own front office. Was it true, or was it something far more calculated? Something that only makes sense once you understand how championship organizations actually operate behind closed doors. Because right now in Philadelphia, there's a storyline that almost tore this fan base in half. And the answers just came out, straight from a man who runs the entire baseball operation. Let's rewind. The Phillies entered the second half of the season sitting pretty, 54-43, a team that looks primed for a deep October run. Then it happens, the collapse, 3 wins, 10 losses, back-to-back series drop. This is a team in free fall. And when a superstar sees his team bleeding out in real time, sometimes he doesn't stay quiet. Sometimes he says exactly what everyone's thinking. Bryce Harper looked at the cameras. He looked at the reporters. And he said the quiet part out loud. We need some help. For words, that's all it took to light the fuse. Because in the world of professional sports, that sentence isn't just an observation. It's a challenge. It's a shot across the bow of your own front office. It's the kind of statement that gets superstars traded in other cities. And almost immediately, the noise started building. Was Harper throwing his front office under the bus? Was this a locker room mutiny in the making? Don Mattingly didn't love it. That much became clear. The Phillies skipper wasn't shy about pushing back, essentially telling his franchise player to stay in his lane. Guys want to be a GM for what you need without a real understanding of where the organization is. Read between those lines. That's a manager drawing a boundary. That's a manager reminding his locker room, who actually builds the roster. This is where the tension lives. Because in the trenches of a pennant race, frustration boils fast. And when your best player starts sounding like a general manager, some people in the building take notice. Some people get uncomfortable. For a moment, it looked like Philadelphia had a real problem on its hands. Not just a losing streak, a fracture. Star versus staff, player versus front office. The kind of story that spirals out of control if nobody steps in to control it. So somebody did. Dave Dombrowski, the most powerful voice in that entire organization, the architect, the man who has been building winning rosters across multiple decades and multiple franchises. And when Dombrowski speaks, the noise usually stops. He sat down with John Heyman, and he didn't dodge the question. He addressed it head on. I don't think Bryce was saying along those lines. Pause right there. That's not damage control. That's not a scripted corporate non-answer. That a president of baseball operations actively defending his franchise cornerstone. He kept going. I know from my own perspective, I did not take it and did not feel it was personal. This is the moment the entire narrative shifts. Because Dombrowski wasn't reading a statement written by a PR team. He was speaking like a man who has seen this exact scenario play out 100 times across his career. Sometimes when you lose, you get frustrations, you say different things. Let that sink in. This is a front office executive who understands the emotional physics of a losing streak. He knows what desperation sounds like. He knows the difference between a mutiny and a man who simply wants to win badly enough that it hurts. This wasn't Harper attacking the organization. This was Harper begging for urgency in a moment where the season felt like it was slipping away. And here's the part that changes everything. Dombrowski made it clear that Harper's comments weren't even a trigger for what happened next. Philadelphia was already working the phones, already scouring the trade block, already building contingency plans long before a single word left Harper's mouth. This front office doesn't operate on emotional impulse. They operate on strategy. So while the outside world was framing this as disgruntled superstar forces front office into action, the truth was far less dramatic and far more calculated. Dombrowski had already identified the roster's soft spots. He already knew where the leverage points were on the trade market. He didn't need Bryce Harper's press conference to tell him the Phillies needed reinforcements. He needed the deadline clock. And he needed the right trade partners willing to deal. And then the moves came. Luis Arias, Caleb Killian, Brooks Raley, 3 additions, 1 headline acquisition. Arias wasn't just another name added to a crowded roster. He was a signal, a statement of intent from in front office that refuses to stand pat while contenders around them get stronger. This is where the story takes an emotional turn, because instead of feeling threatened by Araya's arrival, Bryce Harper did something that tells you everything about who he actually is as a teammate. He gave up his spot, willingly, without controversy, without demanding a meeting or leaking frustration to reporters. Harper moved back to right field so that Arias could take over the infield. Think about the layers here. A superstar who allegedly called out his front office just weeks earlier is now sacrificing his own position on the diamond to make room for the very reinforcement he was accused of demanding out of ego. That's not the profile of a locker room problem. That's the profile of a player who wants exactly one thing, a championship. And Dombrowski recognized that immediately, instead of getting caught up in parsing Harper's exact wording. He zoomed out to the bigger picture, because at the end of the day, both Harper and Dombrowski are chasing the same finish line, the World Series. Dombrowski made that priority unmistakably clear. He wasn't rested in dwelling on a media narrative built around one frustrated soundbite during a 10-game stretch of misery. He was focused on October. He was focused on positioning this roster for the postseason grind, not relitigating a quote that had already been clarified and put to rest. This is what separates championship-caliber front offices from dysfunctional ones. They don't get distracted by outside noise. They filter it out and stay locked on the mission. And once Harper confirmed publicly that his comments weren't a personal attack on anyone in that clubhouse or front office, the entire controversy evaporated. What could have become a season-defining fracture instead became a footnote, a brief moment of tension during a difficult stretch, resolved through communication, understanding, and shared purpose. So where does that leave the Phillies right now? 64-57. Second place in the National League East, tied with the Arizona Diamondbacks, tied with the San Diego Padres, both fighting for that second wildcard spot. The margin for error is razor thin. Every single game from this point forward carries postseason implications. And now Philadelphia has to answer the question that decides their entire October fate. Does this roster, reinforced by Arias, Killian, and Raley, have enough firepower to close out the stretch run and lock in a playoff berth? Or does the damage from that brutal 3-10 stretch linger just long enough to cost them a spot in October? Here's where I want Phillies Nation to weigh in, because this situation exposes a fundamental tension that exists on every single contending roster in baseball. Should superstars have the right to publicly demand front office action when they see their team underperforming? Or does that kind of public pressure undermine the authority of the front office and the manager? Even if the players' intentions are pure, Bryce Harper wasn't wrong about needing help. The front office agreed and acted. But does that mean every star player should feel entitled to publicly pressure ownership into making moves? Where's the line between passionate leadership and stepping outside your role? Drop your answer in the comments. Tell me whether you're on Team Harper for speaking his mind or Team Mattingly for defending the chain of command, because this debate isn't going away. Not with a wild card race this tight. Not with a roster this talented sitting on the edge of missing October entirely. If you want to be locked in the moment Philadelphia makes its next move, whether that's a waiver claim, a September call-up, or a lineup shakeup heading into the stretch run, you need to be subscribed right now. This fan base deserves to know every single detail before it breaks everywhere else. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and get ready, because the Phillies aren't done making headlines this season. Not even close.